This is day 5 of our factoring lessons, and today we're going to be solving polynomial equations using the zero product property. Now, what is the zero product property? Once your polynomial is factored and set equal to 0, then you can solve for the variable to obtain the roots. You'll know more of what we're talking about once we start our examples. So let's look at our first example. Example 1, 2x times x minus 4 equals 0. Now, 2x times x minus 4, that's already factored. Normally, you would be given the standard form, and then you would have to factor it. That's what we've been working on for the past 4 days, just factor. But in this case, your information is already going to be factored and set equal to 0. So now all we have to do is solve. So you got the easy part. They factored it for you. You're just doing the solving. And by the way, you're going to be solving equations. So I hope you're comfortable with solving equations. Here we go. First example, 2x times x minus 4 equals 0. Now, this factored form has two parts. This is your first part, and that's your second part. And since you have two parts of this factor, you have to have two answers. That's the only thing about zero product property. Each factored part has an answer. So in this case, all the problems you'll be doing has two answers. So if you come out with one, we are going to do an example where you only get one answer, but otherwise, there are always going to be two answers. So here we go. We're going to solve each part. So you got your first part, which is 2x. So you just say 2x equals 0. Because 2x is equal to 0, and so is x minus 4. It's also equal to 0. So let's solve this 2x equals 0. Divide both sides by 2. X equals 0, because 0 divided by 2 is 0. All right, so that's one answer. And then the second answer comes from the second part, x minus 4, and you just say equals 0. Then we're going to solve for x, add 4 to both sides, and we get x equals 4. There's your two answers, and that's it. That's all there is to solving this. Again, you got the easy part. It's already going to be given to you factored. All you have to do is set up the equation and solve. So let's look at a next example. Let's look at example 2. Example 2 is x subtract 3, x subtract 9 equals 0. Again, these two parts are both factored already. So you got your first part here, and you got your second part. So you should have two answers. All right, so let's set up. We got x minus 3 equals 0. I'm going to solve for x. So we got x equals 3, first answer. Let me say x minus 9 equals 0. Add 9 to both sides. So x equals 9. That's your second answer. That's it. Because x minus 3 is equal to 0, x minus 9 is equal to 0. So far, so good? Let's go to example 3. Okay, so example 3 is, oops, sorry. Okay, example 3 is 2x plus 7, 2x minus 7 equals 0. Okay, so here you got your two parts. You got your first part, your second part. You have two answers here. So now we're going to do our setup and solve. 2x 7 equals 0. Now this is a two-step equation, so you should be, to solve it, you have two steps. First thing we're going to do, we're going to subtract 7 on both sides, undo addition. And then we're going to get 2x equals -7. I'm going to divide by 2. X equals -7 over 2. These are what we call roots. Anytime you get an answer for X, those are called roots. Because if you use Desmos or you'll use a graphing calculator and you type this in and graph it, you're going to see probably a curve. And that curve, I'm going to go off tangent here for a minute. That curve, what it'll do is it touches two parts of the x-axis. And so when you graph something like this in Desmos, you're going to see a curve, and wherever it touches the x-axis, that's your roots, your answers, your solutions, is this. Okay, just so you'll know what it looks like when you do graph. You can plug that in Desmos, and then whatever lands here and here on the x-axis, only on the x-axis, wherever that curve touches, that's an answer. All right, so now we're going to set up for the second part. 2x minus 7 equals 0. I'm going to add 7 on both sides now. The 2x equals 7 divided by 2. X is positive 7 over 2. Now, I know for most people that are decimal junkies, they're going to want to instantly change that to -3.5 and positive 3.5. Although that's correct, when you're writing roots, they do roots in fractions because you can take the roots and go backwards and write factored form. But you can only do that with a fraction. Can't do it with a decimal. If you do it with a decimal, you have to convert it back to a fraction and give yourself extra work. All right, so that was example 3. All right, let's go to example 4. Example 4 is x minus 1 squared equals 0. I like doing different type of examples because what you've been factoring for the past 4 days, you've seen all these type of factored terms. This right here, I'm going to rewrite. This is written in exponential form because this 2 tells you how many times to write the base, x minus 1. So I'm going to rewrite it so it says x minus 1 times x minus 1 equals 0. This means the same as that. It just means you're writing it out twice. All right, and then we got our, oops, sorry. Oops. Sorry, let me erase that and do that all over again. Alrighty. So now we got, let's go back. Rewrite that back out. Okay. X minus 1 times x minus 1 equals 0. Okay, now we're going to go ahead. We got our two parts. That's your first part, second part. And then we're going to go ahead and solve for each one. Where x minus 1 equals 0, add that 1, add that 1. X equals 1. First answer. X minus 1 equals 0. Add 1, add 1. And you get x equals 1. You're probably going to, Miss McKay, they're both the same answer. Do I have to write it twice? Nope, you don't have to. You can just say x equals 1, and that will be correct. But if you write it twice, I'm not going to mark you down for that. Just know that on a test or a quiz or on a worksheet or any other assignment, they may only mention it one time, not twice. Right, let's go to example 5. After example 5, we got one more example, and then we'll be done. We get 3x plus 5, 3x plus 5 times x minus 2 equals 0. We got our first part, got our second part. Okay, so we're going to solve for each part. So we got 3x plus 5 equals 0. Subtract 5. We get 3x equals -5. Divide by 3. X equals -5 thirds. Okay. Then we're going to solve for the second part. X minus 2 equals 0. Add 2, add 2, and we get x equals 2. There's your two answers. All right. Last example. I'm going to go to example 6. Example 6, we got 2x plus 8 times 4x minus 12 equals 0. Okay. Again, we got two parts here. First part, second part. I'm going to go back. Let's solve for the first part here, which is 2x plus 8 equals 0. First thing we're going to do, we're going to divide by 8. Subtract 8. Get 2x equals negative 8. We're going to divide by 2. We get x equals. Now you have to reduce this fraction because that can be reduced. So that'll give you negative 4. All right, so there's your first answer. All right, and then you have 4x minus 12 equals 0. Add 12 to both sides. Get 4x equals 12, divide by 4, x equals 3. And that's it for this lesson on solving polynomial equations using the zero product property.